Okay, so we're now on page 125 in the Maimer Ibn Hashem Simcha, 1938, and we're holding Va'anova. This is about 10, 11 lines from the top. The fourth word. The line begins with the words Anav Mikol Adam. And the fourth word is Va'anova. Do you have it, Avram?
11 lines down.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Sorry, 12 lines down. 12 lines down. The fourth word, Va'anova Zu.
They have, yes.
And Jonathan, you have it?
Yeah.
Va'anova Zu, and this Anova that we discussed yesterday, which is the idea of the Bittul Atzmi, the sense of obliterating self, even awareness of self. He cleave sibel simcha. It is the vessel and the cause for simcha. But if a person lacks the service of simcha, ksiv, it says in the Torah, devarim, the result will be you shall serve your enemies. And if you recall, back way in the beginning of the Maimer, 2 months ago, when we began learning, what was one of the questions that the previous Rebbe asked? Why such a strong punishment? If I lack simcha, automatically I'm going to serve my enemies? Says the Rebbe, yeah, because you know what type of enemies we're talking about? Not people with guns. Veheim hagaiva vegasas haruach. I'm talking about conceit and boasting of spirit, bragging, showing off. They will come to haunt you. Sheheim oivei umanavdi anova. They are the opponents of anova, of humility. A person who's modest has a contrite heart from the fact the pen v'ulai hechsir b'avedosai. Maybe, just maybe, he's missing something in his avodas Hashem, in his service of God. Since he was given talents, and all he needs to do is develop them from concealment to revelation. He is constantly in a mode of humility, questioning himself, did I do everything? Did I do everything that was possible for me to do? But this is someone, Avram, who is a modest person. He's always questioning himself. Conversely, Baal Gaiva, the person who's the master of conceit, who tamid svaratzen, he's constantly satisfied mikol asherosa, with whatever he's done. It's the best. I can't do any better. You know me, wow, I worked so hard. I gave it my best. That's the attitude of a Baal Gaiva. V'chein, so too, gasa ruach, someone who has the boasting of spirit, bragging, shemarigish esatzmoi, he's aware of the self, and the awareness of self drives him to feel, I'm important. And therefore, I'm looking for satisfaction wherever it is. When I feel satisfaction, I jump for joy. Why do I jump for joy? Because my ego has been satiated. There's another point it doesn't say here. It says elsewhere, Yodison, that the anav, the modest person, is maspik imamuet. He's satisfied with the little that he has. Whereas the Baal Gaiva, there's never enough. He never has enough. And the previous Rebbe, we learned it years ago in our Shiurim, says that he's even has that attitude towards his own family. He will hoard things for himself to the detriment of his family, his wife, his kids, etc., etc. It could be a wife to the husband. I'm saying the person who is this type of a balgaiva, that he feels, I need it for myself. I need it for myself. There's not enough. So I give you bare bones. Bare bones. Unfortunately, this sometimes can lead to a very, very serious issue, to the point of a breakdown in a family and in relationships. But let's go back to the text. Says the Rebbe, and although these attitudes that we are sharing here, says the Rebbe, could be very refined, like that example of the rabbi. For 50 years, you didn't hear a word out of him. You thought that he's Mr. Super Holy, right? It's very refined. It's very private. But if one has that gaiva inside, it can, God forbid, lead to lipol bara gomer rachmon litzlan, to fall into complete bad, God forbid. Meaning to say, it can lead a person, Avram, to go astray. And this you should know. Sometimes we say, wait a minute. Here was a person who was religious and frum for so many years, and all of a sudden, now he's making a left turn, and he's not any longer. What's going on? And people always ask that, right? One of the answers, there are different answers, different ideas, is this: that he never was comfortable in his own skin as far as him being a balgaiva, being bottled, being humble. I saw this. I saw this years ago when I would eat by Rabbi Yoel Kahn, my mashpia, after the Rebbe's Farbrengens, and they would Rabbi Yoel and students would review what the Rebbe said, and I generally listened because that I didn't remember as well as they did, but I could tell you that these people that came, these Bacharim, several of them, they aren't religious today. And I could tell, and I would, no. And I saw then, sitting there now, 30 years ago, or more, 40 years ago, 35 years ago, a long time ago, that they were such balgaivas. They were such ego-driven, the way they carried themselves, the way they spoke. And even if they are religious, they're not, that sense of commitment is not there anymore. Again, even if they're technically religious. And I said then that what I see here is not something I want, and I'm so happy and glad that I don't have their mind and their memories, that I'm only a listener here, not a participant in actually repeating the Rebbe's words. Because what I saw is disgusting. Gaiva leads a person to the worst things, both in relationship between man and between man and God. That's what the Rebbe says here. Look at the words, Chevra. Yocholim chas v'sholem, they can, God forbid, if you haven't worked out your refined gaiva, it can lead, God forbid, lipo bara gomer, to do actual evil. Rahman litzlan. The Rebbe employs the words God forbid because it's very serious. Evil. That's a heavy statement. The Zeh D'chsiv, and the Rebbe has a very beautiful commentary on a pasuk, on a verse in Genesis and Bereshis. Ufi Lakshoi, and his concubine, Ushma, what was her name? Re'uma. A name Re'uma. Says the Rebbe that the word Re'uma is comprised of two words, Re'u